Saturday, January 14th, 2023. This day saw the Jacksonville Jaguars mount one of the greatest comebacks in playoff history, erasing a 27-point deficit to come from behind and win 31-30 in the end of regulation against the Los Angeles Chargers. From a team standpoint, this win took absolutely everyone. But I'm not going to talk about your favorite player. I'm not going to talk about the players that everyone else is talking about. The obvious, the Trevor Lawrence overcoming 4 interceptions. The big three of the Jags and Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram, and Zay Jones, combining for 245 yards and 3 touchdowns. I'm not even going to talk about the silently impressive game of Marvin Jones, who had by far one of the most underrated games I've ever seen, one of the most impressive 3-reception games I've ever seen. I'm not even going to talk about majority of the Jags defense. I'm not going to talk about Foye Oluokun or Josh Allen's 7-pressure game. Rather, who I want to talk about is a guy who got virtually no recognition after he just had the game of his life. Who I want to talk about is Big Xander, Jags defensive end Roy Robertson-Harris. Now, Roy Robertson-Harris had one of the best football games I've ever seen from an interior defensive lineman. Maybe it's me liking the Browns, who don't really have anyone at that position, and when I see someone play it correctly and have the game that Roy had, I'm like, wow. Or maybe it was just that good. I can't tell you how much a blessing it was in real time to see this man completely dismantle the Chargers' mere attempt at a run game. He was living in the Chargers' backfield the entire night, and he did this while being double-teamed and the Chargers running away from him as much as they possibly could. This man had this stat line: 4 TFLs, 2 pass breakups, and a sack. That's crazy. And the only thing that's even on YouTube or any national media of anything that he did is the sack at the end of the game. And this was a big sack, but it doesn't really show how great of a game Roy Robertson-Harris had. And this sack wasn't even Roy Robertson-Harris being Roy Robertson-Harris. He was in the right place at the right time. This is more Frodokasi and Walker creating a sack and causing Justin Herbert to have to step into him. But I want to explain to you guys why this sack is so important and why it shows the impact that Roy Robertson-Harris had in this game. Also the entire Jags defensive line, but particularly Roy Robertson-Harris. Now, if you take a look at the play clock or the game clock right here, it's 5:25. The Chargers are trying to run the clock out. You know, that usually revolves running the football because the clock continues to run and you don't have any incomplete passes. However, the Chargers passed on 3 straight downs, starting with this one. And I really think it's because they had no other choice. You could brand Brandon Staley and say he's a bad play caller and everything else in the book, but I really think the Chargers had no choice. Roy Robertson-Harris and the Jags held the Chargers to 23 carries for 67 yards, and that being a 2.9 yards per carry. That's horrible. That's horrible, to say it nicely. That's not very good. The Jags completely shut down the Chargers' run game, and I don't think there was any way the Chargers were going to run for 10 yards on 3 plays. It would have been a miracle. So they pass. And on the first play, the Jags get a sack, put them in a huge 2nd and 18 hole, which the Chargers tried to dig themselves out of by passing. They called another running back screen, which they did the entire night to try to counter Caldwell's blitzing. It didn't really work, and then on pass to Joshua Kelly, doesn't work. The Jags get the ball back, and they win. But this was only made possible because the Jags were stopping the run. Now, the Chargers could not run the ball at all most of the regular season, except for the Browns. They ran the ball really well against the Browns, but everyone runs the ball well against the Browns. But the way that the Jags handled this game and just completely made the Chargers one-dimensional, and it completely starting with Roy Robertson-Harris, with 4 TFLs and 5 tackles for no gain or a loss, is incredible. Roy Robertson-Harris gets credited for a sack on this play, but it's really everything he did all night that allowed this play to happen, and that's why he's the unsung hero of this game. I hope you guys like this video. It's something a little bit different. It was something I just tried to put together mostly for my brother and sister. They really like Roy Robertson-Harris and the Jaguars. So Roy Robertson-Harris being a former Bear, I know all about him. And my brother's a Bears fan, and with that, I just felt like this would have been the perfect video. And honestly, watching the game, he stood out to me the entire second half, making play after play, and I think he just needed a video. So I'd like to thank you guys for watching. I have no idea when I'm going to come back and make more videos, but for now, I hope this suits you guys well. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching. Comment, subscribe. This is RZFL Sports signing off. Bye, guys.